Hello, everybody. You're watching the Mike Nelson Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe right now. I want to thank the almost 1,000 of you around the world that have subscribed. It really goes a long way. We've only been doing this for a little over a year, and the audience has definitely been growing quite a bit. Today, I'm here with a pretty cool guest. I'm here with Eric Hirshberg. How you doing today, Eric?
Very good, Mike. Good to be here.
So, Eric, if you could give a brief introduction to our viewers, a little bit about your career and what's going on with you right now.
Well, I'm a singer-songwriter based here in LA. I'm about to release my second full-length album, which is called Secondhand Smoke. And I'm doing an album release show at the Hotel Cafe this Sunday evening. If you don't know, the Hotel Cafe is just one of the coolest venues in all of LA. A lot of great singer-songwriters when they were starting out played there, and I've been in the audience for a lot of them, so I've got a lot of heart for that place. And yeah, the album is coming out on Friday of this week on streaming platforms and album release show on Sunday, and just getting ready for all of that.
So, Eric, when did your musical journey kind of kick off? When did you fall in love with music?
It's been a winding road for me. It was not a straight line to me becoming a singer-songwriter. I've been writing songs since I was about 15 years old. I had a band in high school and college that I continued playing and performing in well into my mid late 20s, way longer than I probably should have, because simultaneously a whole other career was kind of taking over my life and my time. At that time, it was in advertising. I went to art school at UCLA. I got a graphic design degree. I started in advertising, and I built a pretty cool career in that business, and ended up being one of the founders and co-leaders of Deutsch LA, which is a great ad agency. We won Agency of the Year from Adweek or Ad Age 6 times during the time that I was there. Did some great creative campaigns that won a bunch of awards. And then that led to me. One of our clients was the Sony PlayStation account. That got built a little bit of a reputation for me in the video game business. And then just by pure chance, I met the founder and the chairman of Activision Blizzard, who we hit it off, and eventually he recruited me to come be the CEO of Activision. If you don't know, Activision games like Call of Duty, Destiny, Guitar Hero, Skylanders, really iconic games that I got to be a part of developing and launching, and uh, really fun, almost decade in that position. But more recently, I've stepped aside from that role, and have kind of rebalanced my life in a way. And one of the first things I wanted to do when I stepped aside was put out an album. I had been writing songs the entire time that I just described, but as I became more and more public as an executive, I became more and more private as an artist, and it got to the point where it was really almost like a hidden second life. And and I don't know if it was all in my head, but when I was an officer at a big public company, I just wasn't comfortable putting out my art in that way. And so it's really kind of a double joy for me. I think making music and putting out music is one of the most joyful things you can do. Playing music with other people in front of other people is top of the mountain for me in terms of life experiences. But also, it's just a chance for me to kind of be my whole self in public for the first time in a long time, since I was sort of a younger person.
What sort of music were you listening to growing up? Like, what got you into music? What made you fall in love with music? Maybe artists or songs.
Um, God, I don't know what to call the genre. I mean, I've always been in that kind of moody lyric first, highly melodic. And that can be alt rock, that can be folk, it can be R&B. But I love storytellers. I love Tom Waits. I love Bruce Springsteen. More modern bands. I love the Lumineers. I love Mumford and Sons. I love Ray LaMontagne. I love Josh Ritter. I have, like a lot of people, I have a wide range of genres that I love. That's more eclectic than that. But that's kind of been that it started with the Cars and the Dire Straits, and has moved along from there. So I've always loved highly melodic, highly emotional storytelling, that takes you on an emotional ride.
You mentioned emotional ride. Is that what you would describe your music? How when you write your music, is that kind of what you're trying to get out there?
My music is definitely, you know uh, I don't know what they're almost journal entries or reflections on my own life, and life experiences. And of course, like any writer, you try to dig deep enough to find the universal. but always starting from something highly specific. So, Secondhand Smoke, it's not a concept album per se, but to the degree to which there's a through line, it's sort of about getting the toxic elements out of your life. And that can be, relationships, that can be the voices in your own head, that can be substances. There's a song about sobriety in there. Um, and and you would think that that would be a little bit of a bummer of a landscape to be writing about, but actually, I feel like they're very hopeful songs and very joyful songs, and that the act of sort of orienting your life around getting the toxic elements out of it is actually a really positive and productive mindset to be in.
Talk to me about the challenges of, writing a lot of songs and then not releasing it and then trying to get it into an album. Was that a challenge for you for sure?
So this is my first, this is my second full length album. The first one came out in 2021, and that one was more of that kind of like, okay, these are the greatest hits that no one's ever heard because I haven't released them before, but these are the best songs that I've written. And some of them were written a decade earlier. Um, this album is unique in that these songs were all written in the last 2.5 years, like just like everybody else's sophomore album. Now you don't have that treasure trove of everything that came before you were putting these out publicly. So um, they're very topical and current, at least to my life. And as far as the process, I always hear stories about writers, songwriters or otherwise, where they say the songs just come out of them and come flowing through them, and they refer to themselves in these almost spiritual terms like a vessel, and that's not me. it is a it is a craftsmanship grind for me, and and that's a very joyful process. But I kind of build these things one brick at a time. I find a guitar hook I like. I find a lyrical hook I like. Lots of times I'll have whole versions of songs that get scrapped because I feel like the lyrics and the music aren't interplaying together. And for example, on this album, Day One, it's one of the songs that's done pretty well on YouTube and on Spotify thus far. Um, I had a completely different version of it. It was more like a hard rock version of it that had a lot more grit and a lot more energy. And it was kind of like this sonic outlier on the album, all of which is much more folky and, kind of organic and human scale. And also, it didn't feel, the lyrics felt a little out of place with that hard driving production. And I had it mastered. I had the whole album ordered, and I just couldn't get comfortable with it. I scrapped it, redid it with my engineer, and recast the whole thing as this kind of moody ride through the desert at night sort of folk song. And that's the kind of thing that I've been doing the whole time. So it's just a constant um craftsmanship grind for me.
Was this album produced by you and your engineer only then? Was it kind of just you
Yeah,
guys?
yeah. I had the same engineer on every song, and he also is a very talented mixing engineer. So he mixed all the songs. He's been, the closest thing I've had to a partner throughout all of it. I produced it, and then I have a great um, network of collaborators, many of whom play on every song of the album. Michael Chavez plays lead guitar on every song on the album. He's played on so many of my favorite albums. I almost feel like it's a cheat code getting to use him on my stuff. But he's played on the last number of Leonard Cohen albums, and he's a go-to guy for Daniel Lanois, who's one of my sort of spirit animals as a producer. So he plays lead guitar on every song. Blair Cinta plays the drums on every song. Matt Rubano plays bass on multiple songs. Maya Sykes, where I have female harmonies, she's the female harmonist on every song on the album that has that element. Um, and then there's a lot of crossover between that band and the live band that I'm performing with on Sunday and have performed with in the past. So great chemistry amongst the other musicians. And the process this time, the first album that I did, Spare Room, which came out in 2021, I was lucky enough to meet John Alasia through a common friend, Liz Fair, who introduced us. And I was lucky, John is kind of one of the most talented producers in the world in any genre, but particularly in my genre. He's produced Dave Matthews, he's produced Jason Mraz, he's produced Lucas Nelson, so just great singer songwriter storytellers. And he he liked my stuff enough to want to produce it. He introduced me to a lot of the musicians I just met. And his approach was really cool. He called it a live studio album, which is kind of how Fleetwood Mac or Tom Petty would do it. Get all the musicians in a room, mic everybody up, do the songs and do as minimal amount of overdubbing as you can. Try to capture the real performance in the moment. And I think there's a lot of romance to that and a lot of advantages to that. The ability to replicate that approach, in fact, it couldn't have been more different. It was me sitting in this room getting the first, track or two or three of, a sketch down to my liking, and then sharing it literally, over conversations like this virtually with other musicians. And there are sort of advantages to both sides. The live studio album, I think you get more spontaneity, more chemistry in the room, which I think you can hear. This, you get more craftsmanship. You get people taking more approaches. They get to spend more time with it. They may wake up the next morning and say, I had a different idea. Try this one out. And so I would just get these treasure troves of ideas back from the other musicians. And inevitably, they would always do two things. They would make it better, and they would take it in a direction that I didn't always foresee. And in every case, I like what the other musicians brought to it better than my original, sort of concept or direction for what I was thinking.
So it sounds like you're open to other ideas when you're writing music then.
I think you have to be. I mean, what's the point of surrounding yourself with other great people if you're not? I try to have a vision for how I'm hearing it because I think guardrails help, and everybody likes to know what direction should I point the bazooka at.
Hmm.
But at the same time, once they start down the road of their own creative process, they might hear something in their minds here that I didn't hear. And a great example is the first song of the album. It's called Good Morning. And it's kind of, I wanted it to be this burst of sunlight through the windows in the morning as and it's an optimistic kind of mantra song about daily habits that are positive for me. And I heard it as a folk song. And if you just listen to it with the vocals and the strummy guitar, acoustic guitar, you'll hear how, what I sent out to the rest of the band. And I think it was Blair Cinta, the drummer, who sent back this just kind of slapping R&B, slapping snare, almost Otis Redding kind of feel to it. And I listened to that and I go, God, this kind of is taking on this R&B vibe that I wasn't feeling. I like that. And so that led me to asking around, does anybody know a great sort of R&B style singer, almost like that gospel choir, backing vocals that you hear on that kind of song? And that led me to being introduced to Maya Sykes. Maya then appeared on, I think, 5 or 6 different songs on the record and gave the whole thing a little bit of that R&B gospel choir feel. That wouldn't have happened if I was more, uh, stringent to my own idea. No, no, Blair, give me something on brushes. Give me something soft. I'm hearing this more as a folk song as opposed to, oh, he heard it R&B. Let's follow that idea and see where it goes.
Talk to me a little bit more about the show on Sunday. What people can expect, and of course, it's a big show for you on Sunday.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making. I'm a 20th century animal, so I still value albums, but everybody who I met with in the music industry said, don't put out if you've got 9 songs, put out 9, releases one at a time because, we all work for these algorithms now, and the algorithm likes, more frequency and more recency and more events where, your followers get to hear that you have something new. So for the last 9 months, I've put out one song at a time. And the last one, the ninth song, will come out this Friday, coinciding with the album release. And so the album is sort of like arriving in its final form on Sunday, but 8/9 of it have been released already. The show is going to be great. This band, these are some of the greatest musicians, and they're all, when they're not playing with me, they're playing with much bigger artists on much bigger tours. Um, and so a lot of them played on my recorded album, and B, I had the privilege of playing with them once before. If you've seen any of my music videos, you've already seen all the people who will be with me on stage. And I just wanted to do it. I got lucky. The album's coming out when they're all available in LA. And so this group has great chemistry, enjoys playing together. All of them have contributed to the sound of the record in one way or another. And I'm just lucky to be playing with them. And it's at the Hotel Cafe. As I said, the Hotel Cafe is, I've been sitting in the audience when a young band called Coldplay was playing at the Hotel Cafe, or a young band called the Lumineers. Um, you know, Pretty much every great singer-songwriter played there when they were coming up. So there's a lot of mojo in that room. There's a lot of lore in that room, and you almost feel like you got to step up your game to play there.
So, of course, after this show, what do you have planned for the rest of the year? Do you have already ideas for another album, touring plans? What do you have planned out for the rest of this year?
One step at a time. I'm going to have this show. I'm going to put out the vinyl record. I'm going to start, marketing that. Um, and I also want people to download the album in its entirety. And for those who like to download digital music digitally, we'll have that option as well. Um, so uh, that's the first job. As far as a tour, that's on my to-do list. It's not worked out yet. There's a process of building your fan base online these days first, which is what I've been focused on. But yeah, that's my goal ultimately is to tour, and then I'm also already writing new music. Um, there's a cover song that we're going to play for the first time publicly at the show on Sunday that I already have fully recorded that might be on an upcoming album, which is a pretty. I like cover songs that take a song you've heard a million times and sort of make you hear it for the first time again. And I took the Simon and Garfunkel iconic song, 59th Street Bridge song, which colloquially is known as Feeling Groovy. I've always heard there a rock song hiding inside that folk song trying to get out. And so we're gonna take that out for a spin on Sunday and see how people like it. I'm also through the process of Secondhand Smoke, I met Aloe Black, who appears on one of my songs, I Love Not Drinking, as a guest vocalist. And that has led to a great friendship between Aloe and I. And we're actually writing a song together as well for him to perform. So that's coming down the pike. So there's already new music in the pipeline. Not a full third album yet, but I'll get to work on that next.
The last question here, if you have any advice for, people that are playing music or maybe have never written music before, what advice would you have? Because you seem like you're really passionate, of course, about songwriting.
Oh God, I don't know if I'm the guy to ask for advice because I don't know if I've achieved enough in this world yet. I still feel like I'm, on the first rung of the ladder here, still building my audience. I mean, I'm lucky that that's happening, and my audience has grown through the process of putting out these songs, and I've gotten some nice feedback, a couple of nice reviews, and got played on the radio a couple of times. So there's been a few wins, but I feel like I don't know if I'm the person to give advice in the music world yet. But as an artist, I'll just say that the place where I do feel like maybe I have a unique vantage point is just the fact that I've had all these other things that have filled my life and I've never stopped making music. And to me, that's the difference between fine art and commercial art. A lot of my career has been spent being a commercial artist, which means you're using your creativity on behalf of other people to sell other people's products or to make something in an existing franchise. This is just my art. I've always found a way to keep servicing that passion. And sometimes that's happened in the middle of the night. And sometimes I've neglected other parts of my life in order to keep it alive. But there's a lot of people in the world who have creativity in them and who have creative passions. That's this. There's this many who actually ever do something and take it to a finished product. And then there's this many who ever take that to taking a deep breath and putting it out in the world or playing publicly or releasing it. And then there's this many who ever do it again. So a lot of advantage just comes from keep going, just keep making your art. You're the only one who has to love it. If it finds an audience, great. If you follow in my footsteps, I've had other, professional engagements that have been fruitful. And, that puts me in a unique position as an artist, which not everybody has, but that's what's worked for me. Just keep going.
Well, Eric, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you. Thanks a lot.
Make sure to subscribe to the channel, everybody. Thanks for watching.